This is an issue that we could have spent a week on. In fact, society and civilization is going to spend the next 30 years plus working this through. I am pleased that we were able to get such enthusiastic and all volunteer support from all the speakers, most of the staff. Everyone really involved in this went way beyond the call of duty. Not because I'm persuasive, but because the issue was so compelling, is so compelling. It's compelling to us in our view as global citizens, as national citizens. It's compelling to us on a personal level. This is not an issue that anyone can say, people can say this is not going to affect me now, but when they say that, it's a bit disingenuous. There's a feeling of anxiety that's pervasive right now about everyone's economic future. You know when the super rich are worried about becoming more aggressive because they're worried about protecting their interests, that they're feeling under assault. If they're feeling anxious in that way, then imagine what everyone else is feeling. There is no one that I know, and I live a relatively privileged existence. There is no one that I know that privately doesn't feel a sense of economic anxiety. The future that we're heading into is not only, I believe, unprecedentedly hazy, but I really feel, as I said earlier this morning, we're in a moment where society feels dizzy, facing the pace of change that's already occurred, which is only, I believe, the beginning. I talked this morning about the idea that I often talk about that we're undergoing right now a civilizational phase change. That the elements are the same, but the structure is utterly different. I stand by that view. I may be off by a decade or two, but I do believe that the fundamentals are such that the definition of what it is to be human, how humans live, what humans can do, and what the creations of humans can do is so fundamentally different that we will experience the potential for more civilizational change in the next 2, 3, or maybe 4 decades than in the last 2 to 3,000. We have a very bad track record as humans of adapting to periods of rapid change without lots of political turmoil and dislocation. The track record that I'm looking at right now is not the taking at face value the idea that creative destruction has always worked and we're always going to create more net new jobs than the jobs are lost. I'm more interested in looking at the entire history of human nature. And the history of human nature is that humans live in an imperfect, dynamic ecosystem. Reactive, proactive at times, but never really good at directing itself. We are way more often carried by the currents of history than we determine those currents. It was very important to me to organize this event on this topic because it became clear to me that this issue itself, broadly defined, could be the issue that triggers so many other redirections of all of our plans. In other words, we each individually have plans for our lives. We each individually have plans for our children's lives. We each individually are concerned about, let's say, our parents' or grandparents' lives. Those plans are based upon, formally or informally, projections about the world that will exist. We have national policies right now and political elections that are fought on a political spectrum that is largely based upon the fact that the future will be relatively similar to what it is now, or the issues will be relatively similar, at least for the foreseeable future, and not that things could change relatively quickly. And then we have a world, a globalized world for the first time, that is beginning to have a globalized consciousness, both generated by thoughtful people, but also in response to global issues that are forcing us to have a global consciousness. It's a very interesting moment in history where all of the world will be like in a decade or two, not even a lifetime, a decade or two ahead. Anyone, like I said earlier this morning, anyone who thinks that the period we're entering in right now is going to be predictable enough that your plans really count for something right now, I think is delusional. That is not a negative thing. That is a call to action. That's why we're here. That's why you worked at the tables in the afternoon. That's why we grasp at the positive remarks and test them in our minds to see, does that one really resonate with us? And do we think that might play out? And could I put my energy or my organization's energy or others' energy into focusing on that? Because we're looking for hope. We are human. We are ultimately an optimistic species, or at least one that doesn't give up easily. So I'll leave it on that note, which is that I think we don't give up easily. I think we are very creative. And even if we count our creations, our technological creations, as extensions of ourselves, they won't give up easily either, and they will be probably, at least for the time being, in our service to help solve some of these problems. So I want to thank you all for coming today. I want to thank you all for indulging me in this experiment to dip our toe in the water on this issue by outside documentary filmmakers, which they interviewed a lot of the speakers, and other ideas and documents that we'll be sending to people around the world. Hopefully we will have played some catalytic role, and that is the best that you can hope for. So thank you very much.